The Minnesota Senate has passed a bill to legalize marijuana. It's expected to be signed by Governor Walz.
34 ayes and 33 noes. The bill is passed and its title agreed to.
Here's DFL Senator Aaron Quad of Apple Valley arguing in support of the bill before it passed on this Friday afternoon.
Traffic doesn't change, crime doesn't change, jobs are created here in Minnesota. Okay, we're going to be 23rd out of the United States to legalize adult use cannabis. So we have a lot of case studies to look at. And we know that in states that have legalized cannabis, it doesn't affect crime rates. They don't go up, they don't go down. They're just pretty much the same. It's had no effect on traffic accidents or fatalities. We do know that it has created a lot of jobs. In fact, my nephew, Mr. President, is one of those job holders in the great state of Colorado, which, contrary to some other things we've heard on the floor, hasn't changed a whole lot. And we know that legalization of cannabis has brought in money and revenue for states. That's not really the primary driver for my support for this bill, Mr. President. In addition to knowing that Minnesotans use cannabis, but right now, they purchase it on the illicit market or in other states where it's legalized. And when we legalize it and regulate it, we make sure that it is safe. We make it way harder for young people to access it. Way harder for young people to access it. But really, there was a question asked earlier, Mr. President, that does this bill do more harm than good? The harm on the prohibition, the harm to communities, particularly communities of color, has been immense. I said this quote earlier, but I just want to read it again. This is the domestic policy advisor of President Richard Nixon. We knew that we couldn't make it illegal to be against the war or to be black, but we wanted to get the public to associate hippies with marijuana and blacks with drugs and then criminalize both heavily so we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night after night on the news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. And here's the thing, Mr. President, about vilifying a group of people on the news and perpetuating myths is that they permeate into the culture. I'm a DARE kid. I'm a millennial. I'm an elder millennial. So I did a lot of DARE. And they teach you in DARE, if you use cannabis, you will use heroin and you will die. I mean, that's literally what they said. And we heard some of that today on the floor. We heard myths like that, or that people who use cannabis are lazy. That's not true either. We know, because we have it in almost half of the other states in our country, the effects of legalization of cannabis, which is adults use it, kids use it less because it's harder for them to get, it's safer, traffic doesn't change, crime doesn't change, jobs are created. That's the reality that we're about to enter into. But we are also going to fix the immense harm that the war on drugs has perpetuated, particularly against black men. Because when we talk about the vilifying night after night after night on the news, that led to incredible policing and over-policing of communities, the arrests and removal of fathers and mothers from their communities, incarceration where corporations made money off the incarceration of those people, charging them money to call their kids or get ramen packets out of the commissary. Big money in criminalizing black people there. We know that in states that have legalized adult use cannabis that there have been reductions in rates of opioid overdose and opioid-related hospitalizations. When we talk about the enforcement of the prohibition on cannabis, when we make it not a crime anymore for adults to use cannabis, the enforcement-related costs go down. The safety of our kids increases. We get to fix the harm. So, Mr. President, I think this legislation is going to be a real hit with Minnesotans. I really do. It's time for us to stop bogarting on this issue, weed out these outdated laws, and I'm going to be blunt. The reason why we need to pass this legislation is because Minnesotans are adults.
Again, the Minnesota State Senate votes to legalize marijuana, expected to be signed by Governor Walz. I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNewZ.TV.